with the castle and following the reference. So let's look at a flag, and I'll show you how to do a flag. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to have a little fun with this time. So the flag by itself, let's go ahead and create a plane. Okay, that's a polygon plane, and it's going to create it in the middle. And there it is, and let's take a look at it. Hit the F key, just move it up, hit the F key, and we'll create it right here. So hit the F key is kind of fun because it lets you rotate around it and kind of focus on that. I'm going to turn that background off because that's just getting in the way now. Okay, so it's kind of isolated. I'm going to hit polyplane, and the divisions I need for the height, let's take a look. Maybe we can just go to 1. Yeah, there we go. That's what I want. And we're going to rotate that up, okay, like this. Because I have it snapped, it rotates it perfectly. And then I'm going to scale that to the scale of a flag, let's say. Okay. Scale that to the flag. And then I'm going to go to the top view and move the vertices around to make it look like a flag that's been kind of waving in the wind. So I'm going to select these kind of guys, these guys right here, and just move those around and kind of move this around like that. And just kind of get a, just move this like that, and just kind of get a flag that looks like it's been blowing in the wind. I know this looks really bizarre right now, but it'll look really cool when I'm done. Well, maybe not really cool, but it'll look pretty good here. It's kind of just kind of, you know, make it look like just crooked and stuff like that. But here, let me show you something that's really cool. And now just kind of make it so it's not so perfect. Okay, so move that one back a little bit. Maybe move that one like that. Just kind of all, you know, make it look as though it's like it's a little bit odd. It's off a little bit like that. And that looks good because this will be stuck to the pole. And let's move this one out a little bit more like that, like it's blowing into the wind. Okay, like that. That's kind of cool. And bring that out a little bit more. Maybe push this back a little bit more like that. There we go. Looks more like wind has taken it. There we go. Okay, something like that. All right. And I'm going to test this. So I'm going to select it, hit the Q key, and then hit the 3 key, and that smooths it out to make it look like a flag, which is really cool. Of course, at this point, I can go in here and just kind of move vertices around if I don't like what I did. Something like that. Cool. Yeah. That might work. And maybe twist this back. Just move that back a little bit more. Or forward a little bit more, like that. That looks pretty good. Right, and of course, you know, you can move those down a little bit, vertices down a little bit to make it look like from a distance it's not perfect. And let's move those up a little bit like that, or down a little bit like that. Cool, there we go. It looks like it's blowing in the wind. Very cool. All right. So hit the 1 key again. That goes back to low poly. And that's what we need the flag to look like. It's low poly. Okay. The other thing is you just kind of want to make things that are kind of pointed, just less pointed. There we go. Yeah, it's good. Good. So there's our flag. All right, cool. And so we will probably make that a little bit smaller. It's a little bit too big. And let's make our little poles and put little balls on top. So the pole will be a cylinder, okay? And because we need to make sure that is really low poly, because right now our scene is considered low poly now, but this would be making like a bunch of these would be a real problem. So let's go in here and make the axes to be something like 8, and that's great for something really small, for a cylinder that's really small. You'll understand when I do this now. So I'm going to go ahead and make that quite a bit smaller, and then scale it like that, so it looks like a pole. There we go. And scale it even smaller than that, and make that a little bit bigger, taller, and just get to the right size. Let's get to let's get to a little bit smaller and a little bit taller, like that. Smaller and taller. Let's go ahead and move it into place. I have to go to the top view because it's impossible to get it set up right. And so I'm going to move that to the center of this dome or cone, if you will, and get it as close as you can. It's, here we go. And let's go ahead and do the flag now. There we go. Move that. Move it into place. And flagpole, flag. Let's get a little bit closer. And get that centered. That may be a little bit lower than the flag. Get it right in the middle there. You can see where I'm situating it like that. And then, believe it or not, we need to have a little ball on top. And that can be very low poly too. So when you make things really small, here's a tip. When you make things really small, like cylinders, really small, from a distance, you're never going to see the low polyness. It's going to look round, okay? You have to trust me on that. And things are really big, you need to add more subdivisions to make them look smoother, okay, in game. All right, so subdivisions will be something like 8. I know that sounds really crazy low. And then 8. Okay. And believe me, it'll work. But we need to smooth that. See, the problem we're seeing is that the object is not smooth. Okay, so you have to go to edge mode and select all the edges like that. And it's what I showed you before. You have to soften those edges. So I'm going to hold on the space bar, go to mesh display, and soften edge. And you have to do that before you bring it into the game engine. There we go. So, and if you see, if I didn't do it to this, let me show you. If I select everything here and make that a hard edge, you can see what it does. So hard edge. And so now it looks like, it doesn't look like a flag anymore. Okay. So we need to go in here, select the edges, and go to mesh display and soften. So it makes a huge difference. Okay. All right, so those edges are softened. That looks really good. And then of course we have to do the same thing with this sphere. Select all the edges and go in here, mesh display and soften edge, and you can see that it looks more like a round, more soft. Now it is pretty, it looks very noticeable when it's this big, but when you make it really small, you won't even know the difference. So I've got to get that relatively close to what we have here. So I'm going to move it. And of course it looks like it's going to go on top, but it's not even close to being where it needs to be because I need to go to the top view. You have to use several orthographic views to get to where you want it. And you're thinking to yourself, well, gosh, I'm never going to see that detail on there. You will. You will see it. Okay. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. It's the little details that matter. Okay. Push it in a little bit to that. You might even want to bring the flag down a little bit more to separate a little bit. And there we go. And there's the flag. And even though that doesn't look like it's very big, I need to put it on top. Go to the top view. That's why it doesn't work when you just use one orthographic or perspective, because you'll never get it right. and we have to center that. Hit the F key to get it to move it to be centered on the pole, and there you go. And from a distance it's hard to see, but when you get up, you know, when you're playing the game and you look up, you're like, oh yeah, I can see that. It's a little added thing. And you know, I mean, you might even want to put something else, you know, maybe something a little more aggressive, like at the end of a spearhead or something like that. But anyway, there's my flag. Let me compare it to the other, and their flags are about the same. Yep, they got some flat flags, you know, different types of flags here. So, oh yeah, those kind of flags too that are hanging down, you can do that too as well. Just select that and select the rod. So let's do the flags that we want, like this. Select them, and I'm gonna actually, let's duplicate that one by itself and maybe the rod by itself. So select those two. Whoops. Hit the Q key and Control D and move that over. We'll have that as an extra, and then I want to select everything and then combine it. So I'm going to go to Mesh, Combine, or I could have gone up here and selected that. And we're just going to go ahead and place that where I want. All around. Maybe on the corner here like that. Oop. Did I duplicate it? Control Z. Let me go back. I guess I didn't duplicate it. Control D and then move it. There we go. And place that where I want it. I might even make that a little smaller. Okay. The flag a little smaller. The pole can be the same. So let's put that at the center of this guy right here. Okay, and then I can place it down. There we go, like that. And maybe just make the flag a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna separate that. Hold down the space bar and go to Mesh, Separate, and make that flag a little bit smaller. Okay, let's go in here to, oh, it's the center pivot. Let's go ahead and get that pivot centered. And then from the front view, I'm going to go ahead and move that. I'm going to hold the D key and the V as in vector and snap it to the end here. There we go. Whoops. It's trying to find vertices and snapping points, so it's not finding one. So I'm going to just do it myself. Hold the D key instead of the V2 and just move it myself. There we go. And now I can scale this down, the whole flag, so it's a little bit smaller. It's a kind of a different flag maybe. Okay. And let's take a look at what we have so far. That looks pretty good. So we got the little flags, and then go ahead and add your flags any way you like. You know how to do it. You can take this flag, and this is how you can make different flags with just one flag. You can go in here and you can scale it down this way, non-uniform, right? And make it smaller flags and scale it up this way to make that, you know, pendant flag. It looks like that double flag. Yep, for the top. You can also rotate it, so you can make that flag, that type of flag here. You probably want to flatten that out a little bit more to make those flags. Okay, but that's it. Add those little details on there. And of course, a lot of you will ask me, okay, what about chains? How do I make a chain for my little drawbridge to make it look more interesting? Okay, well, a chain is pretty easy to do. So I'll show you. It's again the same kind of thing with the flag. You put multiple objects together to create your final piece. So something like a chain would be kind of cool to make and easy to make. You create a torus. Okay. Now, torus is very high polygon, so we start with a torus, and torus is pretty cool. Let's go into the attributes of the torus, and let's play with the subdivisions. So let's go with let's see 6 for that, 6 and 6 like that. There we go. So we need to keep things as low as possible. So subdivisions of 8 might be better. Okay, yeah, 8. That's the wrong way. Let's go 8 here and 6 here. There we go. Let's take a look at that. And that would make a good chain link. Okay. What are the polygon counts? And we haven't talked about that. Polygon counts. So let's go to how do we display that? Go to display, go to heads up display, and go to poly count. Okay, this will tell you how many polygons is in that object. So if I click on it, it'll show you right here. This is how many faces I have in the entire scene, 8,000, which is not bad for a large scene like this. 8,000 is very low. And let's go in here, and you can see that it's only 48, which is fine. That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to go to the top view. Okay. Now this chain link looks a little bit thick, doesn't it? Okay. So go back into torus, and section radius, if I click on that and middle mouse button, drag, I can change the way that link looks. I'm going to hit the 5 key so you can see what's going on here. So I highlight the section radius. Of course, I can type things in, but I like to highlight it. Hold down the middle mouse button, go back and forth, and you can change it. It's really cool. So you can get your chain link just the way you want it. Okay? All right. We need a little thickness, right, for a chain link. Okay? So we also will want to mess around with how it looks. So how does the chain link, how will that look? So let's bring that down a little bit. Bring this one up a little bit, like that. Okay, getting closer to what a chain link would look like. Okay, right, not too bad. Okay, let's spread these out a little bit more. Spread these out a little bit more. So you're starting to see the chain link is working out pretty good. There we go, and from a distance it'll look pretty decent. Okay. So a couple things we need to do. Right now it does not look soft, so you know how to fix that. Go to edge mode, select the edges, right? And hold down spacebar, go to mesh display and soften edge. There we go. So now you can go in here and soften those edges, okay? To make a chain link, then we need to go in here and duplicate it like that. Okay, get it close to the other one, like that. See a little gap in there, and then you need to rotate. There you go, like that. And you just continue doing that. So I'm going to click on this guy right here, hit the Q key. Also, again, don't forget that if you have the rotate or manipulator that's too big for you, you can hold the minus or the plus to make the manipulator bigger. So I'm going to make it smaller. It's kind of getting in the way. So I'm going to duplicate that, Control D, and then move it. Okay, like that. Okay, and then you can go in here and select all of them, duplicate it, Control D, and duplicate it over. Okay. Of course, you have to rotate though, unfortunately. There we go. And continue doing that until you get your chain link that you want. And of course, what I would suggest you do is you get enough chain links together. Control D, move it. You would probably then at that point let's do one last go of it here. Here we go. And Control D and move that out of the way. So now we got quite a link of chain here. Okay, so what do you do with this now? The question is a good question. You're going to want to combine them. So select them, all of the together. You can go in there and do one at a time, hit the Q key and just select them one at a time if you want to. Doesn't matter. But I like the marquee select. That's a time saver. So I'm going to top view and just do a marquee select over the whole thing like that. I'm holding down the left mouse button and selecting it all, and I'm going to go to combine. So that combines them all together. And then what you want to do is you want to move the pivot point. So let's go ahead and center the pivot point. Hit the W key and hold the D key down, and this will allow you to rotate properly. Okay, so at this point you probably don't want to, let's go ahead and scale it to the scale it needs to be. First of all, it's way too big, right? Scale it down and move it to the area you want it. It's still pretty big. Okay, so scale down. Those are massive chains. Okay, all right, there we go. Of course, rotate. Now the rotate now is going to work against us. The relative rotate tool will work against us. Okay, so let's get a little closer. Hit the F key, and you can see we're really close to that. And the rotate key won't work now because honestly we need to rotate that down and less than 90 degrees. So let's double click on that again, and let's just turn relative off. Okay, and we can rotate that to where we want it at any angle that we want and get it to fit just perfectly onto your object. Like that. Just move it up until it actually fits on there. Like that. And duplicate that, Control D, and we have our little chain like that. There we go. And of course, any other like cool little details you want to add, feel free to. Just make sure they're low poly. Again, you can see how I did the chain link, and that chain link, it adds up when you have a lot of chain links together. So we've got over 1,000 faces for that chain link, which is acceptable. Okay, but it adds 1,000 faces to the already that raised it to 10,000 faces, which is still relatively very low for a low poly. So I'm going to turn on wireframe unshaded. You can see that we could probably go in there and clean up the polygons, you know, clean them up, but right now we're okay. It's good. Unreal Engine would have no problem running this level if it needed to. It's still considered low poly. All right. With that said, finish up the flags, get everything ready to go, and I think we are finished. Okay, so you guys can do the rest of the flags, get them all set up, and finish everything up, and I will see you in the render video where I show you how to get all the images set up and ready to go, and then you should be finished. Okay, all right, so excellent job. Let's turn off the wireframe unshaded. There we go. And when we do screenshots with wireframe unshaded, that's exactly what I do. I just turn that button on, turn that button on right here. So that's called smooth shade. Let's turn that off. That's smooth shade, right? Oh, here's something that's really kind of cool. Go to renderer, go to the viewport renderer, and click on that. I like to put on, let's see here, where's it at? Yeah, ambient occlusion, screen space, enable, and it kind of makes your model stand out. It's kind of cool. It's called screen space ambient occlusion. Did you notice that? It makes it pop out. It adds some shadows and stuff, which is really cool. You might want to tweak that out a little bit. Radius, Smaller or larger. Let's bring it down a little bit because it's a small model. Something like that would work. Yeah. Let's kind of play with it a little bit. Smooth it out. Let's take a look. Turn off enable. Yeah, that looks good. That way you can see the windows better. It just makes the shadows stand out a little bit more. There we go. Anyway, if you made it this far, great job. And when I want screenshots of the scene, and some of you may want to even add a ground to this, which would be kind of cool. Let me take you through that real quick. So just it's a cube, or excuse me, a flat plane, and let's get that a little bit bigger, like that. And that way we don't have to have we don't have to have something that's see-through. We can actually see something that's kind of nice, and just kind of set that up. And normally, for just kind of create a little scene like this, I would want to go to the top view and just go in here and just select random vertices, and I'm going to select a whole row, just move it up a little bit, like this row here, this row here, and this row here. We're just going to move that up a bit. Let me show you, W, and just move that up a bit. I'm going to make sure I select that guy too as well. Let's Control Z back and get the corners. Select the corners. I forgot to select the corners. There we go. Move those up just a little bit, like that. And then that's basically your horizon. I'm just going to move vertices around, even your horizon and vertices around a little bit. Okay, just to kind of make it look like it's like I don't know, like ground or something, or some kind of environment. And we just don't want those vertices to be exactly the same. Just kind of shuffle them up a little bit, maybe move that one back a little bit. And so just randomize this, how this looks. Okay, the ground and stuff. Maybe move a couple down, maybe move a couple up. Just kind of give it so it's not flat looking. Very cool. You can spend a lot of time on that. Just kind of moving things down, just make it look random. And then what you want to do is select it and go to edge mode, select the edges, okay, and go to mesh display and soften edge. See if that helps a little bit. You've got some little crinklies in there, which makes things look a little bit weird, okay? But you know, for a ground plane, it still looks pretty good. But what I would do, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here, is I'm going to go ahead and soften that up. So let me show you a little technique that I use. So I'm going to go in here, go to mesh, and I'm going to smooth it. Just go to, like, click on the option box. That's an option box right there. And I'm going to smooth it to 1. Watch what happens. Smooth it to 1. Ooh, that looks way better. Look at that. So smooth it to 1. It's still low poly. It's still considered low poly. It's only 400 faces. But for an environment, that looks pretty good. So now you've got that little environment here. And when you do screenshots and you do a little render for me, it's going to look pretty good. Yeah. There you go. So there's your finished model. Of course, I don't have my flags done and all the other details, but that's pretty close. It looks really good. So I'm going to go to File, Save Scene As, and if you haven't done that for a while, that's probably a mistake. You probably want to save I forgot to save it in the last couple of videos, so make sure you start saving stuff. Anyway, that is it, and we will go through how to add like a material on there so it doesn't look just like plain gray, and we'll take you through that. Just add basic materials to it, Arnold materials, and then I'll show you how to render and light this scene and have something really cool to turn in. We're not going to do any UV mapping and texturing because that takes a lot of time. This week we want to keep it nice and short and simple, and you can texture it later, okay? But I think right now everything is looking really good. Make sure that it's flat. Yep, everything looks good. And there's our result. Of course, the flags aren't done. You'll have to get all that stuff finished. You know how to do that. All right. In the next video, I'll show you how to get all the images, the rendered images, and the screenshots that I need. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.